As of Wednesday, 11th March 2026, the global geopolitical environment has worsened materially. The single biggest escalation is the US-Israel war with Iran, which has now become a full regional conflict with direct consequences for Gulf security, shipping, energy markets, and wider risk sentiment. Reuters reports that the conflict began on 28 February 2026, with US-Israeli strikes that killed Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and senior commanders. Since then, Iran has retaliated against US-aligned Gulf states and maritime traffic, while Israel has widened strikes to strategic Iranian energy infrastructure. On the Middle East front, the situation is now beyond a contained Israel-Iran exchange. Shipping through the Strait of Hormuz is under acute stress. 3 vessels were hit by projectiles on 11th March, and Reuters says at least 14 ships have been attacked since the conflict began. Saudi Arabia is shifting more oil exports to the Red Sea, while the IEA is considering an unusually fast strategic stock release. The war is also widening through Lebanon, where Israeli strikes have hit Beirut and surrounding Hezbollah-linked areas, pushing displacement sharply higher. The economic implications of the Iran war are already significant. Reuters says diesel markets have been severely disrupted, with risks of a broader inflationary impulse and slower global growth if Hormuz disruption continues. Oil and shipping risk are now the main transmission channels from battlefield escalation into the real economy. For India specifically, Reuters reports that the Iran conflict is dealing a double blow to Indian airlines already affected by the Pakistan airspace ban, forcing costly rerouting and schedule disruption. On the Russia-Ukraine war, the conflict remains active and highly dangerous, but global attention has partly shifted to the Middle East. Diplomatically, Ukraine says it is ready for fresh talks at any moment, and President Zelensky said Turkey is prepared to host the next trilateral round involving Ukraine, Russia, and the US. Militarily, escalation continues. Ukraine says it struck a key Russian missile plant in Bryansk, while Russia says it shot down British-supplied Storm Shadow missiles and reported casualties from Ukrainian strikes. At the same time, Russian attacks on Ukrainian cities continue. In practical terms, this is still a live war with intermittent diplomatic openings, not a conflict moving toward settlement yet. A notable strategic subplot is that the Iran war may be indirectly helping Russia. European officials have openly warned that Moscow benefits when the West's attention, military bandwidth, and energy markets are pulled toward the Gulf. Reuters also reports that Trump and Putin discussed both Ukraine and Iran, underscoring how tightly these theaters are now interconnected. In East Asia, the immediate temperature is lower than in the Gulf, but structural tension remains elevated. A U.S. Navy P-8 transited the Taiwan Strait on 11th March, reaffirming U.S. navigation assertions, while China has raised its 2026 defense budget by about 7% and continues modernization. Around the South China Sea, China-Philippines friction remains active, including disputes over patrols and a new espionage controversy in the Philippines linked to Chinese intelligence concerns. This is not a shooting war, but it remains a major flashpoint with military and trade route implications. On the Korean Peninsula, the risk level is below the Middle East and Ukraine, but tensions are again rising. Reuters reports North Korea has criticized US-South Korea drills, while South Korea says it can still deter threats even if some US capabilities are redeployed to the Middle East. That tells you Washington's force posture is now being stretched across multiple theaters at once. Beyond the headline wars, there are other serious geopolitical crises that should not be ignored. In Sudan, UN-backed findings say RSF actions in al-Fashir bear the hallmarks of genocide. In eastern Congo, ceasefire violations continue, and the US has sanctioned Rwandan military figures over the conflict. A fresh strike in Goma today underlines how unstable the theater remains. In Haiti, Reuters reports explosive drone strikes and gang warfare have killed more than 1,200 people, including civilians, showing that state fragility and urban conflict are also major geopolitical risks in 2026. There is also a strong geo-economic conflict layer running underneath the military one. US-China tensions remain active around tariffs and trade policy, with Reuters reporting continued clashes over tariffs and only limited expectations from Trump's China visit. In plain business terms, 2026 is shaping up as a year of simultaneous military conflict, plus supply chain stress, plus tariff friction, plus energy volatility. My strategic read is this: the world is now facing three concurrent risk clusters. First, the Middle East is the most immediate and market-moving danger. Second, Ukraine remains unresolved and can re-escalate even while headlines shift elsewhere. Third, China, Taiwan, South China Sea remains the biggest medium-term systemic risk because it sits at the intersection of defense, semiconductors, trade, and shipping. The combination is what makes the current environment unusually fragile.